Let's Talk Small Business, the real talk, no BS podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs who want to grow and actually enjoy the ride. I'm Mitchell Wilson. Let's get into it. So today's guest is Daman Grewal. He's a founding partner at logisticsales.com. So Daman has spent his career in transportation, trucking, and logistics all across the industry, working across operations, sales, safety, compliance, you name it. He's been recognized with the Profit and Growth 500 awards and featured in industry publications for helping scale fast-growing companies. So what makes Daman's work especially relevant for small business owners is his focus on learning by doing, no hype, no shortcuts, no theory, without execution. Daman, let's talk small business.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for having me on the show, Mitchell. I appreciate that. And definitely here, to share about logisticsales.com.
Brilliant. So we will get into that very shortly. Before we get into there, can you just tell me a little bit about your early career and what's pulled you into logistics and operations in the first place?
Yeah, unfortunately, none of us choose logistics as a career, especially not back then. I had no idea what it was. I had no idea what a truck and trailer was at that point. Though I think the only thing I saw at that point was like dump trucks. It was the only thing that kind of resonated in my mind.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, what are these things that seem to go all over, Canada, US, and so again, based in North America here. But I got exposed to it by accident by a friend of mine whose dad came over to my house to get some stuff done on a flatbed scanner. This was back in the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had some OCR script capabilities where I could change documents. And so he was getting me to change some documents. I'm like, all right, I'll do this for you. I didn't question it. I didn't really know at that point what it really was. And then he saw some potential in me and kind of pulled me into transportation. And for me, it was just trying to save money for schooling, to finish off my schooling and post-secondary education. And every time I tried to leave transportation, somebody kept pulling me back in. And so I started off as a safety manager. Then I came back as more of a dispatch operations. And before you knew it, I had been through so many different companies that I finally had enough bad experiences that I had to open up my own. And
okay, I like it. So you've just mentioned now that you've worked across all these operations and sales. Like, how did those experiences shape how you think about business today?
Definitely showed me the things that I wanted to incorporate into business, but it also showed me a little bit of the negative sides, which I'm like, hey, if there's these negativities that are associated with business and entrepreneurs, let me flip the script on this. Because I was able to watch and see how things kind of worked and what made businesses successful, that's more of where I want to kind of lean people towards and open up their minds to say, hey, if you just run it, again, honest, customer service focused, outward focused, where it's more about your employees, about your customers, you relatively will do well in business as long as you have some business ethics, right? And so we kind of teach everything in that way of make sure you follow business ethics, but there's no manual for entrepreneurs.
No. So, well, one of those things, not necessarily a manual, but did you have any mentorship as you were earlier on in your career?
No, that's the reason why we kind of opened logistics sales. And I had friends at the time when I was in post-secondary college, and they were building homes, and then people I knew were doing amazing type of work out there. I just was hoping that I didn't really know how to communicate it, but I was hoping that somebody would see me and say, hey, Daman, I'll help you figure out what you want to do in life. And so that was something I really wished I had while growing up. Another thing is, for my childhood, I kind of grew up without a father figure as well. So at age 4, my dad ran away, and financially we were really poor as well. So I was always kind of just felt like I was like a little bit of the outcast that, nobody really wanted to help. No one would really see me. And so, again, I was always hoping that I had that in life, but now I have the opportunity to be able to create that for other people. And so that's what kind of pushed me into creating this type of program, is just saying people just need a little bit of encouragement, and they can go a long ways if they have the right type of encouragement.
Okay. So we'll get into your business very, very soon, but obviously you had your career and you're like, hey, I want to do this myself, be in business. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned the hard way?
Oh, there's a lot of lessons. One is that we actually get tied into, if we have a business partner, we actually get tied into the same energy. as
Mm.
our partner.
Yep.
And so again, it's limits the amount of growth you want to do in a business, and it could also accelerate the amount of growth you do in a business. So be careful of who that partner is. It's almost like a life partner where you're kind of tied together, regardless of how you want to start that business, operate that business, where you want to take it to go, right? There's that aspect of it. What else I learned in business too is, again, what made businesses fail versus what made businesses succeed. And so again, a lot of that has to do with just basic business ethics. Another lesson that I learned is also about how you treat your employees. And I realized that a lot of companies that were really successful at one time really treated their employees well. And when they got too big, that was a common thing that I would hear back from a lot of people, is that when companies got too big, they kind of forgot about the people that helped get them there. And
Mm.
so the importance on that human capital, that value that your employees bring into your business is absolutely paramount.
Okay, well, let's dive in a little bit now then and talk about logisticsales.com. What is it? What do you do in a nutshell?
So our motto is everyone has the ability to be financially free, regardless of where you live, regardless of your background, regardless of your educational level or your finance level. So we believe that this opportunity is open to everybody, and we're out to prove it with logistics sales. And we ask you to challenge us otherwise. And
Okay.
so it's a mindset that we want to go after and say, hey, if you want to go get better, you can. And it's not limited by the people that you think it may be limited by whether it's your teachers, your mentors, your employer, your supervisor, anybody. Again, the only choice of you getting successful is actually in your hands. And that's what we want to show people, is that this control is always in your hands. It's not dictated by somebody else. And I know, again, for myself, going through that experience when I had, when I was working my jobs, it was almost like I had to ask my employer if I could grow, if I could actually make more. And I always thought that I was under their control when it came to that, but I didn't realize that I was the one that had the choice. I had a choice to work where I wanted to work. I had a choice of what value I put on myself. And so again, it was a matter of trying to figure that part out. And it wasn't until I learned what value really meant and what you can actually bring to an organization by the type of experience that you're able to obtain, or the skill level that you're able to get to.
Okay, righto. Well, when we're talking about avoiding hype and shortcuts in sales,
Hmm.
what does sales without the fluff actually mean to you in practice?
Well, it means I'm not going to try to sell you this pen. So, that's the biggest thing, is we're not the Wolf of Wall Street type of sales. So what we try to do is we try to break it down, and we just say sales is basically just customer service. And, again, we're not going to hype it up and say it's something that's different.
Mhm.
Sales is the ability to just take your friend out for lunch. Sales is just the ability to be able to talk and communicate to somebody and express, how you feel. It's just problem solving. We don't need to make it too complicated. We don't need to put a stereotype on what a salesperson is, but it's a matter of, can you do social media? That's sales, that's marketing. There's so many different ways that we can create different ways to be able to sell or to be able to present opportunities, that it doesn't necessarily fit the salesman type where you're carrying around a briefcase and you're trying to sell to anybody and everybody. And it's just, again, how do we do this in a way where it's service based? So that's what we teach, is really we're just trying to help people. And if we focus on who we're trying to help, then you could actually face yourself in the mirror. You won't have to worry about this conscious thing that's going on and saying, wow, I'm trying to sell people something they don't need. And that's like the stereotypical salesperson is like, oh, it's trying to sell me something that I don't need. Stop
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
stop it. And you want to, again, nobody wants to get those calls. Nobody wants to get those solicitations. And so we want to take that part out of it and say, how do we do it with good intentions, with a clean conscience, where it's a place from serving somebody. And then learning that also every single business needs this component of sales, regardless if you're, a for profit or even a not for profit. But both of these actually need the sales component to actually let it survive.
I mean, that's ultimately what business is, and I know so many people get into business, and they could be a painter or a bricklayer. It doesn't matter, and they're really good at that, but they still need to do the sales. We all need to make a sale, to exchange service or products for that, and I guess that's ultimately what everyone needs to needs to do and understand. I guess we've probably covered off what people misunderstand about sales. How do
I
you
think
reckon confidence builds in sales over time?
confidence builds through repetition. Again, experience. It's whatever, and this is where we kind of help people with sales. It's like, what are you currently doing? So we help them take a look at their skills and interests now. And so a lot of our episodes that we have that are available for free for anyone, again, after like episode 2 or 3, there's worksheets associated with each episode.
Yes.
And what it's trying to do is trying to help you find your alignment. And because a lot of times what we teach, even on the sales side, is that everyone actually has the natural confidence to be able to do it. But somehow when you put like the sales title on top of it, then again, people get scared. There's a fear that kicks in. And so a lot of times when I'm teaching sales, I'm just helping to take these blocks away that people have built up. And they feel like, if I'm talking to an organization, I got to speak differently. I got to become somebody different. And we're like, no, you just got to be yourself. That's the
I
thing.
kind
And I
of
think
feel that sometimes kids are really good at sales. I mean, they're convincing me of anything, really.
and they're the best teachers. Kids are phenomenal salespeople because they always get what they want most of the time, right? So kids, they know how to read people. They can look at anyone and be like, okay, hey, you know what? This person's going to get me what I want. That person has a smile on their face. That person's looking at me like this, and they pick up on it. There's such good salespeople because they pick up on all your habits first, and they're tuned into the person to figure out, okay, who's the person that's gonna get me where I need to get to, and they know how to play with you too, right? They know how to make you happy. They know how to push your buttons, and yeah, so they understand that two-way relationship really well.
My son's figured out that if he wants something, if he says, "Oh, can we do this together?" It's like an automatic yes from me.
Yeah.
Well, can we just play the PlayStation together, Dad? I just want to do it with you. Of course.
And so they know what we want, right? And so that's a problem solving component. Like they know the value, right? They know your values really well, and they say, hey, you spending that time with family is a good value trait that kids pick up on and say, hey, yeah, I can definitely take advantage of that. Dad loves hanging out with me. Let me see what I can do here.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah, yeah. And so that's how we want to keep sales as like it should be fun. It should be relationship building with people. And we go through like this one episode where we just talk about like client profile. Who do you want to work with? What type of people do you want to work with? Is it kids? Is it people like kids, or is it like people that have those type of personality traits? And so again, it's having that ability to choose and choices. And so that's another thing that we always try to help people with is understanding that everything is a choice and nothing has to be concrete, where again, the ability to be able to choose is what we want people to know. And that's again going back to career, as having sales as a career, or even like anything that's entrepreneurial. So we can try to open up people's minds to that aspect of it as well. And so one of the first episodes that we have too, we talk about what it's like for employees when it comes to their earning potentials. And with employees, they kind of hover at this flat line, which slowly increments a couple percentage every year. And then we show them the contrast where the entrepreneurial line shows up a little bit lower, pretty much almost at zero a lot of times, because when you're starting entrepreneurship, you're kind of down here. Or anything that you're learning new, right? There's going to be a learning curve. But then usually after 18 months, it kind of meets the employee line, but then it has an opportunity to skyrocket. And so we show them the graph of what that looks like. And we say, okay, hey, it may take some time to get there. But once you get there and you understand what you're selling as a product or as a service, or you start understanding business as a whole, then now you can take what you've learned over the last 18 months and be able to accelerate it, because now you've kind of gone through a lot of those situations of learning the objections, knowing how to add the value to give them solutions that actually suit the people. And so once you kind of learn that aspect of it, now you have untapped potential to earn whatever you want. And that's the thing with entrepreneurship is you can scale by 25%, 100%, and even in the thousands of percentiles sometimes.
What do you reckon business owners or people tend to overcomplicate?
Everything. I think everything's a huge mountain that you have to overcome. And sometimes it's just putting in the basic steps, not overthinking it, not thinking too many steps ahead sometimes, and just saying, hey, how can we do the simple things first? And like I said, I've scaled companies in the Profit 500, Growth 500, my own companies as well. And the only basic step that we took was customer service. If you understand customer service and how to focus on that customer to provide the best value or best product or best service to them, you're automatically going to grow as long as you follow it up. So it's there's just basic things that you have to do. And when we overcomplicate it and we think that we need, the latest technology, or we need, $100,000 employees left, right, and center. And so we kind of make this big thing up in our heads to think that we need everything that we see out there. And then to really understand that like 97% of businesses are usually just small businesses.
Yeah.
And to realize like that's a big component. And do all these people have the same resources as maybe Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos? I don't think so. Right. So how do we start small and understand that we could scale? And this is again what we go try to teach in our business as well, is that entrepreneurs need to open themselves up to saying, okay, who can help? Can I create opportunities for people to help me along this journey? And to realize that, people are looking for financial freedom, but entrepreneurs are also looking to grow too. So when we realize that both people have the same goal, how can we come together to be able to achieve that? And you see this with corporations that are willing to open up and allow outside employees to even have ownership stakes in the company, or to create incentives, whether it's, a commission structure that actually benefits the people to be there and makes them invested into the business. And so I always use this analogy. It's like, would you rather own 100% of a grape or 10% of a watermelon?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people that own businesses, entrepreneurs, like to hold on to it so tightly that it's like mine. And then you kind of lose the whole focus of, hey, this is supposed to be something that I started because of a passion or something I had. But then if it turns inward, it usually self-destructs. But when you go outward and you're all about serving, then you can watch things grow and flourish. But then you also have to understand that you need people with you possibly to achieve those results. You can do it solo, but you can also do it better with people with you.
Now, you've mentioned about, the entrepreneurial journey, how, you can actually scale it up like a bit of a hockey stick. But there's still some businesses, a number of them out there, where they seem to plateau. So what habits separate the people who plateau versus those that just keep on growing?
Couple of ones, but John Maxwell says this really well when he talks about the law of the lid. And law of the lid means that your business is only able to grow to the lid or the knowledge that the owner has. And so a lot of times you're hitting this roadblock because the owner really doesn't know how to grow. And maybe they're looking for coaches like you, Mitchell, help them with that next step. But again, they're not open to it, or they've had too many stressful situations where now they've associated pain to growing. And that's also allowing them to just keep hitting this top where they don't want to grow sometimes. I have business partners in my businesses where, again, they've hit a plateau and they said, that's it, Damon, we're not looking to grow anymore. And I'll figure out other creative ways to grow around them.
Well, the funny thing is, these people that, the business doesn't go any further, plateau, a lot of the times you're right, there is a cap on themselves, but they don't actually know it. You come across that a lot?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So like I said, a lot of times what we're trying to do, and this is, again, not even entrepreneurs, but even people in sales, like people have an internal regulator. And again, this is a lot of times you can see this in people's weight. Some people have a certain thing where they have a certain body that they want to maintain. And anytime it goes up or above, it kind of triggers them to get going. Entrepreneurs and salespeople have the same thing where they get comfortable. Like a real estate agent will sell a couple homes and now he's like, okay, now I can go relax. And so many of them will tell you this, that once money starts coming in, it makes people comfortable. And then there's a certain comfort level where we kind of see this in beast games too, but where when people get a certain amount of money, they're ready to hit that button. And that button means comfort, and the easy button where it's like, okay, now I'm done. Now I'm comfortable. And so they're self-regulating themselves in that manner. But again, they don't realize it because they're like, okay, we're working hard, we're putting in effort. But then there's also this hidden stuff that you can only see from the outside. And that's something where, again, I think some of the coaching that you might do, Mitchell, you're able to maybe help people with that, but they have to be open to it first.
Yeah, it's looking at it from a different perspective. So, Damon, whereabouts are you in this comfort zone then?
I'm well, we're always willing to venture out in different avenues. So I'm always trying to change things from the outside. And so I'll keep venturing into it tiny bit, tiny bit, tiny bit. And definitely ventured into logisticssales.com where it was like, okay, well, let me get into the service side of things. Let me get into, again, trying to figure out different things that are going to fulfill me because I'm not happy at that growth level. And so I know that if I need to keep pushing myself to get better, that's the game plan that I typically take is try to push myself and keep going up to these different levels. But sometimes, it's you try something. If it works, cool. If it doesn't, try something else, see how it feels, see how it resonates. And then sometimes it's all about just taking those chances and saying, okay, well, once you get into the ability of having that flexibility to be able to choose, then there's multiple things that will start opening up to you. It's I've gone into software development, I've gone into different aspects, course development, a lot of different avenues where again it's just like, okay, well, what comes in front of me? So I take a look at what comes in front of me or who comes in front of me, and I say, okay, well, hey, I love helping people, and that's what I realize is energizes me inside is when I see somebody that's ambitious, and I just want to help them take it to the next level, and that's typically the people I tend to invest in as well.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you've actually mentioned a number of times today customer service, customer service, customer service. So, I guess for me, I for one believe that any small business in the world has the ability to offer world class customer service. There's kind of nothing in their way to be able to do that. Usually, the smaller the company, probably the better customer service they can provide. I was lucky enough to go work at Disney, which is a long way from home in New Zealand when I was a lot younger. But of course, went through amazing service training sort of thing. Like for you, let's dive in to the customer service portion of it. We've sort of talked a little bit about sales, but what does that customer service mean to you? How can people improve it, and what does it do to their business?
Well, I think Disney is a great example of that. And the way that Disney teaches their customer service, I mean, even the people that wear the costumes and come out, whether it's a princess or somebody dressed up as any of the figures there, but something that they teach them there is when a kid is hugging you, you don't let go until the kid lets go, and it's just doing that little bit of extra. And so even for us in our businesses, the biggest compliments that we used to get is that your drivers are smiling when they come over here. It's about how they make them feel, and it's about our customer service reps or secretaries that our admin staff that would just always be cheerful when they're picking up the phone. So it's just like these small steps that really kind of take you to that next level. And when you
Mm.
experience that, it makes it more pleasant to call back. It makes it more pleasant to re-experience that same experience you had. And so that's why the magic of Disney. Why do they call it the magic of Disney?
Mm.
And because you go there to dream, and they provide the whole environment for you to experience that feeling. And I think once people know that you actually care about them, then they're more likely to want to work with you because they can feel it. And it's not something that you say. It's not something that you could do, but it's something that people feel internally, and they're willing to want to work with you a little bit more just because they feel the genuineness of what your company stands for or what your brand stands for. And there's certain brands that will absolutely go out of their way to make sure that you have the ultimate experience utilizing their products or services. And that's what I think makes a difference. Again, if you've ever hired someone where you've had a bad experience, you've definitely seen the other side, and you're like, well, I'm never going to buy that, or I'm never going to go to that store because the customer service experience was absolutely horrible.
You can
So,
probably answer this question for me. I'm just pondering here. Like, I guess I used to value price, and it may have been because I was younger, may have not had as much money. But today, maybe I'm just becoming an old man. I don't know. But I value service far above price. Yes, price does come into it.
mhm.
But if I'm even just buying a TV or something at the store, even if it's $500 more or whatever, if someone's giving me good service, I'm still going to go with the better service here every day of the week. Is it just me getting old, or have I changed, or what is it?
You've gone through enough experiences
Hmm.
again you have a value system in place where you're like, hey, you know what? if I've had a good experience here before, I'm likely to pay for it again. And so again, when you build that into you, that's why young people are willing to try different brands a lot of
Yeah,
times.
right.
And then as older we get, we typically want to stay with the same experience. And even, for example, a friend of mine today took their kid out to a coffee shop and was like, "Hey, you want to try this new matcha flavor, this, and this?" And then the kid's like, "Okay, I'm gonna stick with my regular because I could trust this because I know what it is." And so
Mhm.
that's the whole thing, is that trust has already been built there. And so when you have that and you know what it's gonna taste like, you know what it's gonna feel like, then why would you want to change it? And
Yeah,
so some people just get used to the same old, and which is okay. And some people will try to venture into new, but they know anytime venturing into new can create a little bit of turbulence, which are
yeah.
there's a unsurety about it. And so again, would you want to risk it? Sometimes I like going to new restaurants to try the foods, but sometimes it's like, you know what, it wasn't the experience I was expecting. And
Mm.
so, it resets us back, and so we have to open ourselves up again to be able to experience once we've been burned before.
One of those lessons that was from Disney when I got there, you mentioned about, the people in costumes, but all the way down to those people sweeping the streets, they were all empowered to actually ensure someone had the most magical day. As an example, if someone was walking along and maybe a bird crapped on their shoulder, they could just take that person, walk into a shop, and just take a new t shirt right off the rack. No questions asked. And
Amazing.
it was empowering their entire organization with that main goal that opened my eyes a lot. And so ever since from then, whenever I have big teams, everyone is empowered to do something if it is for that customer experience. No
And then we
questions asked.
Yeah, and then we look at the longevity of Disney. Look at the longevity of how long they've been around. Again, businesses that are sustained for a long period of time, you have to keep that morale high, because otherwise, again, the people in your business can get stale too. And so this is why, a lot of the good businesses, or a lot of the businesses maybe a little bit larger, will spend money to motivate their staff, right? And
Mm.
we'll create programs and incentives to be like, okay, hey, how do we get these guys up a level? How do we create that atmosphere within our organization to be able to uplift everybody so that we can survive, right? And I've seen that in organizations where one bad person can ruin so many around them. And again, it's just a matter of if you're keeping a tab on it. And there's so many stats that just say so many businesses go out of business within the first 5 years of business. And I think it's nearly half of businesses go out of business in 5 years. And so when you have stats that are that high, you're like, well, there's an opportunity there. 50% of businesses need help, right? And
Hey,
some,
well, that's why my business exists, to help those people.
yeah. And so that's the thing. There's a need for that. And there's opportunities there for everybody, I think, to be able to participate. And it's a matter of, okay, how do we love thy neighbor? I always kind of relate it back into like spirituality, but again, how do we incorporate those good deeds that we can do to be able to help each other? And then again, it's a matter of saying, okay, well, if we help each other grow, can we all benefit from it? And can we make it in a fair way where everyone's happy in that process? And even again, with entrepreneurs and a lot of small businesses, usually have less than 5 employees. And in their mindsets, it's like, okay, well, you can't really pay somebody a six-figure salary when you're not making it yourself. But if we create opportunities for people where they can actually earn that if they're able to build the business, then there's more to go around. But if you have everybody picking at the same cookie jar and no one making cookies, eventually it's going to run out. And we see this in larger corporations and a lot of times in unions, where they're going after a business, everyone's trying to take, but there's no money coming in the coffers. And we see this in governments right now too, where again, they're running into massive deficits, and I don't even know where this money's going to come from. But again, it's like, okay, well, hey, we can keep taking on debt. We can keep taking on debt. But imagine if that was a business. How many businesses can actually take on debt, right? Not many, unless you have big credit lines. But again, not like the government where you can just print it and say, hey, it's okay. But
Mm.
as
And
a
look,
small
this is
business,
the reason why I actually personally love small business. I don't like corporate because of those reasons. Let's not get started on the government and all those sort of things. And the same with the unions. Yes, I know there is a place for the people that, need that support. But once again, when it's more about, the people at the top just driving blood over the stone, it doesn't work. Where's the win-win?
And so that's what we want people to kind of learn and say, okay, well, can I be a revenue generator for the company? And you can do revenue from two sides. One is by saving them something. The second is going out and trying to do the sales aspect of things and saying, okay, how can I help build the business? What can we do? And a lot of small businesses, because you're in a small business, you have a lot of different responsibilities, especially when you're starting off as
You're
an
wearing all the
entrepreneur.
hats. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the chances that you're good at all of them, and so you realize that, there's people that need help. And one of the exercises I kind of go through is, just zoom out on your own neighborhood on Google Maps and take a look around, and you're going to start noticing that a lot of people that are probably living in your neighborhood or in the, 5 block, 10 block radius, you're going to start seeing those names pop up on Google Maps. Some hair design place, maybe an
Hmm.
accountant, some small business where someone's doing it out of their house. I've seen social media companies, all sorts of, auto parts, you name it. But there's so many small businesses that are just inside people have running out of their homes. And it's
Mm.
usually just in our couple block radius. But even if you walk down to some of the other businesses and you say, hey, how many times do we drive down the street and not really recognize what businesses are around us? Or we're like, hey, I never knew that place existed. Or have you ever been to an industrial area? Right. So that was
Mm.
something a lot of people, unless you have a reason to be there, you're probably not even going into an industrial area or a big commercial building for that fact. You kind of see the building from the outside, but you don't know how many businesses are inside that building. But a lot of these people are possibly going to need some help. And so what we say is, even if you zoom out on Google Maps, try having a conversation with somebody if you're looking for an opportunity. And it might even be your neighbor, and just say, hey, you know what? I'm looking at business opportunities. I don't really know what I'm looking for right now or how I can help, but here's what I can do. And same thing, a lot of these companies probably need social media help. So again, if you have a phone, you're probably good at doing social media. If you can take a photo, put a few words to it, probably good at that. If you're good at writing, then maybe you can help them write an email or do a script for them that can help them get more customers coming through that door. Maybe you can just hand out flyers and expose
Look,
their business.
honestly, I totally agree with you. And look, I've done that myself as well. I've gone to a company and said, hey, look, I see there's an opportunity here. I can help. I'm not going to cost a thing to you. I'm going to make you money. And it was driven between me making them money, and it's a win-win for everyone. So it's creating those opportunities. Obviously, you need a little bit of maybe some help and some support to take that first step. But, once you do take that first step, like you're saying, those opportunities can be there if you've got a phone in your pocket.
Sure. And that's what we're trying to do with our program as well. And just to kind of teach people about just try that first step, and see if, or just even watch the episodes and see if anything resonates with you inside. And just see, there's a little voice sometimes inside of us that says, yeah, maybe I want to try something, or maybe I want to do something. Nowadays when we see social media, it's all about, people flaunting their stuff and saying, oh, I wish I had that lifestyle. I wish I had that. I wish whatever it is. But at the same time, it's playing with people's minds as well. And they're like, okay, well, how come I don't have that? And how come, they have this shiny object syndrome? It's like, well, if I'm working at a place, I need my vehicle, my nice house, vacation time, all this sort of stuff. But then, again, it's like, okay, well, let's look at it in practical steps. Are we willing to get out of our comfort zone to be able to go achieve this? And so we wanted to say, okay, well, if it's something that's in your mind, here, why don't we just give you a few action steps that you can take, or give you a few ideas that can help you resonate with what your skill sets are and your interest levels to see if it can actually match with somebody for those type of opportunities. So again, you can achieve that lifestyle instead of thinking about it. And so what we're trying to really do is to help people with the mindset to say, okay, well, hey, either I can accept where I am already or where I am now, or I can take that next step. And sometimes people just need help with that next step. They don't know what it is or how to do it. And so we're just saying, okay, here, we'll expose you to the opportunities, and then you can decide whether it's right for you or it's not.
Do you think, because we're standing here, we're going, hey, look, you can achieve so much if you're an entrepreneur and these opportunities are out there and we're going to help you take the first steps, etc. However, do you believe that everyone should be an entrepreneur?
Absolutely not. It's a So again, that's the thing that we're trying to show them is like, hey, this is what's available out in the marketplace, and this is how you can search for it. And then again, it's something that's going to resonate inside of you, whether you want to go for it or not. It's like it's not about pushing somebody into something that they don't want to do. It's about saying there's multiple options to get the same thing. And we just want to show you that there's options in life. And that's where we want people to just feel comfortable knowing that, hey, if I want to, maybe down the road, because it's not always the right time to go be an entrepreneur. It's not always the right time to take this type of opportunity. But when you feel ready, when you're ready is what, at least you know what steps that you could possibly take or potentially take, or at least your mind is starting to expand to say that this can actually happen for me too if I want it to happen. And it's an
Yeah.
internal feeling or internal choice. And so that's the feeling we want to give people. It's just that there's a choice. And if you know that you can have that choice and you can execute it anytime you want, then be comfortable with where you are today. Right. So it's a comfort level of just be happy, you know?
Mm.
And that's all we want people to feel is like, hey, be happy. If it's not for you right now, don't worry about it. Right.
Yeah.
So but don't have that stress of it. Don't carry that stress of it unless you're willing to go put the work into it.
Yeah. Too right. Hey, listen, Damon. What's the best investment you've made into your own growth? Because we're talking about other people's growth. What about yourself?
Ooh, I think it's just, I've done a lot of personal development training, but I think it's just to balance all the different aspects of my life. So whether it's relationships, spirituality, health. So just to kind of understand these balances, and I think that's ideally what allows us to be strong enough to be able to take those next steps is that if we're not feeling good inside, then it's really hard to make it happen on the outside. And so really doing that self-care is something that I neglected for a lot of years. And I had to relearn, okay, all right, how do I take care of myself? Because I was always outward focused about how do I make
Mm.
sure, my family's okay, my kids are okay. And you kind of lose yourself along that pathway. And so, yeah, just, again, that was one of the biggest things for myself is just putting that investment back into me. And it helps you re-energize, take the breaks when you need them. And yeah, you come back you just come back with a lot more energy to be able to do whatever you want to do. And, you just realize that if you want to push at something, you're going to have to make sure that everything around you, the foundation's built so you're able to do that. And, the self-development, motivation, Tony Robbins for sure. And sometimes it's just the people that you meet too.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. So, what does success mean to you today compared to earlier in your career?
Question. Success today, I think, is just, again, being able to, for me, the biggest thing was always being able to look at myself in the mirror and knowing that I did my best. And for me, that's the biggest thing for me is knowing that, I'm a good father, good husband, good friend, good son, all these sort of things. For me, that's the biggest thing for me in life is just saying, how am I living my life? And am I living with any regrets? So kind of give you a story about this too.
Love
When
to.
I did my first business, got really successful at a young age and got the opportunity. This is when VoIP phones first came out and I was working from home and I thought, okay, hey, I'm doing the whole work-life balance thing. And then I realized I was sitting in four walls, sitting within four walls. And I'm like, well, this isn't really how life is supposed to be. And I started missing the other interactions.
Mm.
And, at that time, my family, I was like, okay, hey, we can travel anywhere in the world and still be able to work. And then nobody really wanted to travel. So I was like, oh, okay. I just thought this was going to be life that,
Yeah.
I would build the flexibility. We'd be able to go do all these things. And then, yeah, I just realized, okay, well, that didn't work. And then also inside, there's a part of me that said, hey, you know what? I probably should have pushed a little bit harder in that business I was already in.
Mm.
And then luckily I got the opportunity to start another business. And then I really got to go full out on that one. And that was amazing, because there was a lot of things that were still left inside of me that I hadn't done. And so every time there's this little urge inside, you just want to, for me, it's like just getting that part done and getting it finished and just saying, okay, let me just get it out because I don't care if it's successful or not, but I don't want anything inside of me that's going to have regrets down the road. So again,
Mm.
it's just that facing yourself in the mirror part and saying, hey, you know what, if I have the opportunity to do something, why not just go for it? Because I don't want it on my mind later. And that's a lot of people have entrepreneurship on their mind. A lot of people have financial freedom on their mind. It's like, you can take those steps. It doesn't, and it doesn't have to cost you.
Mm.
You don't have to start a business yourself. You can go help somebody and, again, do it at their expense and not really put them in a negative situation. But, other entrepreneurs are probably willing to have people come on board to help them with their journey and see if they could, get that help and support to be able to grow. And then maybe you could get a part of the upside on that. And so again, a lot of these things about, getting these things out of your system and being able to try it, you can try it with, again, zero money. Sometimes you don't even have to speak English to be able to do it. You don't need to speak the language, but that's, again, it's possible in so many different ways because, writing is sales, pictures are sales, communication is sales in so many different ways. And so just realizing that there's so many different ways to achieve the same result again is something that, again, if it's something that's in your mind, try it.
Damon, like a lot of what you're saying really resonates with me personally as well about that success. And speaking to you today, I genuinely believe that you are there to help people. So that really comes through. So that's been awesome. Now, for listeners, they want to learn more about you. Like, who can you help exactly? Who's the sort of target market? And where can they connect with you?
I think mainly anybody that feels stuck in life right now. What I would do is encourage them to just take a look at the website, logisticsales.com. We got the first few episodes on there, and I think the rest of them come onto YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And then even if you follow the episodes, sign up or subscribe, you'll probably get a worksheet with a lot of the episodes so you can actually work through and just take that clarity in your mind. What do you really want? What are you looking for? And so we want to be able to help people with those steps. The type of people, again, anybody that's looking for that next change and doesn't really know where to go. But we've been able to help anybody from people that are brand new into sales or into entrepreneurship to people that are well experienced. So anywhere from 17-year-olds, teenagers, going all the way up to adults, maybe seniors. But anybody that wants that opportunity, it's available for anyone. And that's the thing too, regardless of what age level you're at, regardless of whatever skill level you're at, there's always something that you can offer. And if it's something that's in you that you just want to experience something different, I would say go ahead and try it. And that's pretty much all it is just a place where at the very least, you're going to learn something and you're going to expand your mindset to be able to allow opportunities to come in. And that's really what we want for people, is just to allow them to expand and to understand that there's opportunities where you live. But there's also opportunities, whether it's your state, whether it's your country, whether globally, that the whole marketplace nowadays is changing. And we're sitting on different continents right now too. And to let people understand that you can experiment anywhere you want and with whoever you want. So, have the experience of just being able to talk to somebody and to be able to share something that you know as a skill or invite somebody in to be able to help you. So there's so many opportunities that we could help each other all, that I would love for people to just, experiment and try it, and to understand that there's so many community groups that you could join to be able to go see, okay, well, there's so many entrepreneur groups. There's so many virtual assistant groups. There's so many groups about just sales in general, but there's so many of these small business groups in every community that you could just go see what people are talking about. There's meetups, Toastmasters, anything.
Hey, well, if you're listening to this episode and you're thinking differently about yourself, your business, whether it's your sales, whether it's your systems or mindset, that's the point. So if you want help identifying your biggest bottleneck, mapping out your next smart move, make sure you do book a breakthrough session with myself and the Coachbirds team. Damon, thanks again for being here, and of course the work that you're doing. To everyone listening, keep building those skills that compound, systems that support growth, and of course there are opportunities out there. We're here to help. Appreciate it. Thanks very much, Damon.
Thanks, Mitchell.
Let's talk small business. I appreciate you tuning in. If you got value, hit subscribe, like, or drop a comment. It spreads the word and might just help another legend get their breakthrough.